This book was, for me, it increased my faith in this great Lama, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. It increased my faith tremendously. Because I used to have some funny views about him when I was in America. And yeah, this is him in Tibet. And then when he came to America, he disrobed, got married. That's him later. Then he would give Dharma talks like that. And sometimes he'd be in half robes, half hat, but incredible. His institutions all over grow. Later on, and then before his death. He died at 46. He used unconventional methods. Example, in the Chinese tradition, you have Zai Kong, who was totally opposite of monk vows, but he was the best monk. And they use unconventional methods that usually during their days and during their time, people don't accept. Later on in life or when they die, people realize what's going on. And he follows that tradition of a Mahasiddha, many, many lifetimes. And some of it inside is, this person is John Riley. And he's his servant. John Riley, some drunk, got married twice, failed, divorced. He was wandering around, bored, looking for women. And he came across this meditation place. And guess who was there? Chogyam Trungpa. A small group, small place in the mountains in America. And what happened? He went for teachings. He was bored silly. He was more interested in some of the female students there. So after the teachings, he got one of them. He went under his car and he had a good time with her on the retreat place. And it was raining the whole time. And then the next day, he stumbled in and he saw the Lama. He was very impressed with the Lama. He liked the Lama. He was impressed. He feels something, but the teachings he couldn't understand at all. And that went on for 5, 6, 7 years. He just could not understand. Fall asleep, blur, it doesn't go in. He will explain. And so, by fate, this guy who wandered off the street became Chogyam Trungpa's main assistant. And Chogyam Trungpa, like Tilopa to Naropa, tortured this guy to death. In many ways, visually, verbally, physically, by example, tortured him to death. Again and again and again. And the guy, finally, at the end of 7 years of serving as Rinpoche's assistant, was kicked out. Okay, it's time for you to get lost now. Rinpoche's like, huh? John Lowry's like, what? Yeah, it's time for you to get lost now. You need to go serve other people. He was devastated. He was like, I did all this and I'm not even appreciated. Nobody cares about me. How can this be? He was very angry, but he didn't lose faith in Islam. He left and he got a job as Bill Crosby's butler. And he did that for a few families. And then the Lama called him back sometimes, and back and forth, back and forth. And the Lama already told him, you need to teach. You need to be a teacher. He said, oh, no. It's beyond him. After the Lama died, he started reading transcript. He missed the Lama very much. He regretted having bad thoughts. And after the Lama died, he started reading the transcripts of the teachings for the last few years that he actually attended and didn't understand. And this time he understood. He couldn't believe. He said, it's like something opened. The teachings just went in. And as he followed his Lama's instructions, the Lama himself went up there, had a dinner party and beer and stuff, sake. Lama loves sake. He drinks 3 huge bottles of sake per day, nonstop. And one of John Riley's jobs was to sit by the Lama the whole night, not falling asleep, to be alert that when the sake cup came down to 1/3, John Riley had to pour it and make sure it was full. And if he didn't, he'd get it. The Lama threw a BF. And he had to do that for 7 years. Every night, and the Lama would sit, and the servant, John, would be really pissed off, and all he'd think is, does this Lama ever think about bed? Does he ever want to go to sleep? Do we ever go to sleep? Can we ever be released from this? Why am I here? And he thought of 120 ways to escape, but he just couldn't. When he looked at Lama, he says, I don't know why, I've never felt this much love and compassion, although it doesn't look like I'm getting any. There was another wonderful trick that the Lama would play on him. After staying up the whole night, then every night he has to decide where the Lama slept. Well, the Lama would decide, because sometimes Lama would like sleep outside. So you got to drag the bed, everything out there and sleep. Sometimes sleep upstairs. No matter what, he had to be alert. Lama always made him alert. Always. And then, sometimes Lama would sleep outside. So in 6 a.m., 7 a.m., finally when he hears the word good night, he has to prepare the bed for the Lama. And not only that, he has to, if it was upstairs, he has to assist the Lama upstairs because Chogyam Trungpa is slightly paralyzed. So he shows. And he would walk up the stairs to Lama and he had to support Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche from behind, from the elbows from behind, help him up. And every time, every night, 7 years, when he got to the top of the stairs, the Lama would drop himself onto him. So they tumbled down the stairs until John Riley got smashed every day, all the time. And sometimes he would actually have something damaged here and it would swell up, and he would say, what is wrong with this Lama? Why am I being tortured like this every single day? You see, in Tibetan tradition, you can't do it here, of course. When the Lama is very compassionate, the Lama will beat you for the killings, the murders, sexual misconducts that you have done. He will beat the karma out of you so you don't suffer. But here you do that, you get called to the police because people don't understand. So the Lama has to do other ways. The Lama actually tortured him every single day to make him fall. All the time. And then one day, John was very happy because he went to the market and he had somebody else stay there with the Lama. Somebody else. And he was thinking, you better make sure you do this because this is what happened to me every day. So the guy thought he was smart. The Lama is so compassionate. You know what he did? He went in front of the Lama, which is very bad. And he held the Lama's hands, pulling him up the stairs. When the Lama went upstairs, he jerked his hand out and he threw himself down the stairs, the Lama. So when John Riley got a call, it was his Lama was in the hospital because he threw himself down the stairs. Oh, yes. He hurt himself, but they learned a lesson. And John Riley said, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He's a psychotic. He's totally a psychotic. Either he falls on us or he throws himself down throwing a BF. And this is what he says throughout the book till the end, where he realizes what's happening. And he tells you, he has commentaries. It's not BS, because if you listen to his commentaries, it matches the scriptures, what he realizes. And at one time, it was incredible. His family name is Mukbal. His Lama name is Chogyam Trungpa. His title is Sakyong. And he himself believes, he tells people that when he wants to get into places he can get into, he would tell people he's the Prince of Bhutan. Don't you love that? So if he liked an airline hostess, he would tell John Riley, tell her I'm the Prince of Bhutan. He'd be like, I don't want to tell him that. And then sometimes he would make the assistant go into the cabinet, the pilot's cabinet, and tell them, can you wire to Hong Kong or call Hong Kong, tell them the Prince of Bhutan can't make his appointment on Wednesday for tea at the Hong Kong commissioner's office. And John's like, but Rinpoche, number one, you're not the Prince of Bhutan. Number two, you don't have an appointment with the Hong Kong commissioners. Number three, there's no way these people are going to entertain me. No way. And the Lama would say, just do it, John. Just do it. And John was very resistant. He just would not surrender, and he would resist and resist and resist. Finally, like I was, okay, whatever. Because if I don't do this, somehow I'll get it. So he goes there and he tells the head hostess. She actually agrees. She goes and tells the captain, and they come back a few minutes later and say, oh, we let them know that you can't make it. They made the call. And then, you know what? John looks at the Lama saying, oh, I can't believe this. And this happens all the time. And the Lama says, okay, now I can take a nap. All the time. All the time. And wait till you see the Lama's bubbly antics and what he does with bubbly and the doubts he created in his assistant's mind. And sometimes the assistant thinks he can copy the Lama by doing that and talking about it to people. He thinks that. And he thinks he knows a great secret. But you will listen to what he has to say. And another time, fabulous. Oh, by the way, so every day or every few weeks, he would change his name. They have to ask him, okay, what's your name today or what's your name this week, He would say, today I'm Mukbal, Mr. Mukbal. They'd be like, okay, Mukbal. So we have to call him Sir. Sometimes he'd be the Prince of Bhutan, so they have to call him His Majesty. And of course, John Riley himself couldn't be called John. He was Major John. Because you see, Sakyong is someone who is a holder of the Shambhala lineage. So if they're a Shambhala lineage holder, they're a general of Shambhala, a spiritual general, fighting delusions. And so, of course, the Prince of Bhutan was, Sakyong. So when he was Sakyong, he called himself, he translated into, I'm a general. And John Riley had to be the major. So wherever they went, they have to address him as general. So they go all over America, and John Major will address him as general. And then people around us like, who's this little Oriental man that's brown from Tibet or whatever? And he's a general. General of what? They're going around. And listen to this, all right? This is nothing. Not only was this game going on all the time, also, he loved uniforms because he's a general. So he and Major Riley would fly to England to buy uniforms. and buy lapels. And John would spend hours sewing on the insignias and badges and all that for General Mukbal today. And one time, they were in San Francisco, and they walked by a girly bar, a go-go strip bar, girls take off. And then Rinpoche says, oh, let's go in. John says, let's not go in. I don't think it's very proper for you. He has all these projections. And he said, no, I want to go in there. And John says, no, I'm not going to. He said, let's go. And he said, okay, what can I do? So he goes into the girly bar. The minute Rinpoche walks in, there are these girls taking off their tops. They see Rinpoche, they scream. They go, Rinpoche! And John's like, what? And then Rinpoche sits down, and these girls run over. This girl runs over, sits on his lap, and starts a conversation. How are you, Rinpoche? He says, I'm fine, how are you? She goes, I want you to meet all my friends. And all the other girly girls come. Of course, nothing on top. And introduces the meets, and they say, what a warm person. And then John hears the girl will say, I love the Shambhala course 1 you gave. I just want to come and thank you. The teachings you gave in that course was fabulous. Thank you very much. Rinpoche says, you're welcome. He says, okay, let's go. John's like, phew. And then another time, after that, they're walking around San Francisco. They got a call that 3 British warships were docked in San Francisco as a tour or something. And there's 3 ships. The first one's Stepfield. I think it's Stepfield. You check in there. And Lama heard, because someone called John. John told Lama. And you know what? Lama says, let's go and meet them. And John's like, what? He says, you're going to find out their number and call them on ship and tell them that the Prince of Bhutan is coming for an inspection tour. Oh, yes. So, of course, General Major's like, that's not going to work. And by the way, if we get caught, we will be incarcerated. We will be put in jail. That is false identification on a vessel, an army vessel, military vessel, and it's totally secret. Rinpoche says, oh, let's go. So he says, oh my God. And by the way, let's go home and change into our uniforms before we go. So he goes home, changes his uniform. John calls up. Somehow he gets through information. He calls the ship and informs them, the Prince of Bhutan is coming for an inspection. The head guy in charge there says, okay. They drive up in a taxi, listen to this. And there were all these protesters out there because they were against the Falkland War at that time. Totally against the Falkland War. And when he stops, all these people they drop their placard. They look like, who's this? Like, who's this Oriental guy, with the uniform? And he's very proud he's walking with John. John's like, oh God, we're going to get caught, 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 we're going to get caught. And he's so scared. So they get on the ship, and the guy, not the captain, guy in charge, I don't know who, the galley guy, whatever, comes out and greets Your Majesty, the Prince of Bhutan. John's like, I can't believe this. They go on board. The first ship they went on board is the Stepfield. Stepfield. You don't quote me, I forgot the name. You'll see here. And you know what? He takes them on a tour. And then Rinpoche is sitting there talking to them, in his uniform, of course. And by the way, they didn't notice insignia is Shambhala. Yeah, that's on his medal, Shambhala. He's the general from Shambhala. They don't even ask. They probably think some weird Oriental country or something weird in Bhutan. Never mind. They don't even, because he put it very boldly, Shambhala. So I got an idea. Kechara? I thought, I better not. That's a little too wild. So he talks, he asks what's their salary, what they do, and what's happening there. And the guy explained. Then he said, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave now. They said, oh, thank you, Your Excellency, or Your Majesty, for visiting. He gets lost. John's heart said he cannot. He was so scared through the whole thing. And then he said, oh, forget it. That's another wild antic of Rinpoche, whatever. He doesn't think he's a Mahasiddha at the time. He just thinks he's just berserk. But when this Lama is berserk, when he gives a teaching, he said, it captures you. It totally catches you off guard. And he never goes into higher subjects. He sticks with very simple subjects but that transform your lives. And he's well known for that. And he has many books out, many. They came out after he died. And what happened was, John went on, and then he made a notation. A few years later, when they had the war, I think it was the Falklands War, I got mixed up. The Falklands War. The Stepfield was the first ship to be torpedoed. And John left it to your imagination to think what you want. And Rinpoche went on that ship, talked to them, and just got lost. And that was the first ship to be torpedoed. In the Tibetan tradition, we believe he knew he went to bless the people. That he cannot stop their karma, but it will be like that. He went there to bless them just by ordinary means, so that at least they have a good death. Something of a good rebirth. We believe that. There's no other coincidence. And he does this all the time, over and over. So one week he'd be Mukbal. One day he'd be, the Prince of, His Excellency, His Majesty of Bhutan. Another day he would be Chogyam Trungpa. Another day he'd be Sakyong. And he based his whole house in Lajang on the Shambhala mandala. So even the house would be called mandala or Shambhala, whatever. And then his own house would be based on that. And he did all types of wild things. You'll read here. Some of the things I can't even repeat. It's too vulgar. It's totally vulgar. But in the end, John says, Rinpoche always teaches us we have no identity. We put the identity on ourselves. And we're stuck in identity. And we live according to, I am this person. I am the failed married person. I am the failed divorcee. I am the one that cannot achieve. I am the one that cannot make it. I cannot. And we get stuck to this identity and we operate from this identity. He realized many years later, Rinpoche destroyed that identity in him. Now, he's a Dharma teacher for Chogyam Trungpa's lineage in Nova Scotia, where Rinpoche bought a big piece of land, gave it to him, and went up there. And by the way, when they went to the land, they were required to dress in dinner clothes, suits and tuxedos, and ladies in gowns. And John's like, oh my God, another weird antic. And up there in Nova Scotia, it's just a village, small restaurants. They said, why are we dressed like that going there? Little cafe. Of course, when they went in, the minute Rinpoche walked in, the people there, the waiters looked and said, they don't know why. They went and took the best napkins they had out, simple ones, and they put candles out, and they made it as elegant as they can. And they had a wonderful dinner there. Rinpoche didn't do any blessings, so they thought. But he went there and had dinner and left. Later, that land became a retreat center. And now, John, he has a Tibetan name, a lineage name, is teaching in Nova Scotia as a lineage holder. And the Rinpoche told him to start the Celtic Buddhism lineage based on what I have taught you, according to the people. And for many years, Rinpoche told him to teach. Many years, Rinpoche encouraged him to teach. He didn't believe it. He couldn't do it. He's a drunkard. And he's now a teacher, very soft. You just look at the picture later, very soft and very gentle. And he writes what he went through and what happened to him and how he was transformed. And how he doubted his Lama all the way. And the Lama did every action. He did every type of verbal action. And the Lama loves to curse. The Lama is always screaming and cursing. And by the way, when he does a blessing, he doesn't go to the land and do rituals and ring bells. He just goes there, has dinner, maybe have a sake party, get drunk, he's carried out, and then the place is blessed. They realize later. This is the way these masters do it, to tame these type of people. So the master will manifest and show actions according to the people and what they require. So if he's around drunkards and he does some kind of drugs, acid, I think, with his people. The people totally blew their mind. Rinpoche was fine. He was sitting there on acid. No problem. He woke up the next day, no problem at all. And they saw a little glimpse how come that doesn't affect him? How come? You just see what he does on the airplane. You just see. You just see what he does with his 2 female disciples. And John Riley walks in. And how he reacts. You just see. But you see, that's how he acts to change the lives of those people. And there were many people who left him. Because when I was in America, I heard about all this. Some of our students in Geshe-las were from his center. They couldn't take it. And they left. But now his center is all over the world. It's very big. His incarnation has taken rebirth in Tibet. His incarnation. And from one of his trysts, people call it a tryst with one of his female disciples, a high reincarnation Tuku was reborn. His name is Mipam Rinpoche. Mipam Rinpoche is one of the greatest Nyingma scholars in Tibet. And his name here is Sakyong Mipam. Sakyong Mipam means the earth holder. It's a title his father given him. And Mipam is his name, Mipam Rinpoche. Now his son is teaching, taking over the center. But at that time when they had the son, they were like, look at this Lama, this robe, and had a kid, look, Didi. Oh yes. And he put his son through intense training. Now he's a great teacher in the West, speaks perfect English, perfect. And he talks about his father. And Lama Trungpa Rinpoche did drugs with his students. He slept outside. He got drunk nonstop. He took 2 to 3 big bottles of sake per day. And there was a particular type. He liked Winchester, some kind of suits, I can't remember. He's very particular about his clothes. He loved uniforms. He gives funny names to everybody. And another funny thing is, on his stationery, he gives wonderful titles. Wonderful little titles. He's always giving titles out and little certificates out on his letterhead. And John Anthony Perks, for outstanding contribution to the culture of the kingdom of Shambhala, the order, elegance of the kingdom of Shambhala. And he put his name there, and he'd stamp it. And he'd get all these, and John like, oh no, another certificate. I've been, in the household, there's just him and Rinpoche, and he's elevated to these positions, and he's thinking, listen to this one, all right? Just listen to this one. And this is John sitting there with his eyes rolled up. In the name of the profound, it's an edict, by the way, because he's an emperor, of course, of Shambhala. So it's not it's an edict from Chogyam Trungpa. So when they're alone, he says, I'm going to give you a title. You read here. And then John's like, what? And it says here, in the name of the profound, brilliant, just, powerful, all victorious Rikden. Rikden are the kings of Shambhala. His glorious Sakyon on earth, that's Chogyam Trungpa himself, Doji Dradu of Mukbal Dong hereby installs. So he's naming himself his name. Yeshi Trungpa, which is John's Dharma name. John A. Perks as Kusun Dapun, head of the household. And proclaimed and sealed at the Kalapa court. Kalapa is the actual house of the Rikden kings in Shambhala. The seat of the kingdom of Shambhala by the profound, brilliant, just, all-powerful, victorious Sakyong Mupopa, that's himself. The glorious Doji Dradu, that's himself. In the year of the Earth Horse, 16 Grabjung, the first month, the 70th day, March 5th, 1978, signed and sealed, gives him. So after getting these titles, John asked him once, you read here, are these awards and appointments fact or fiction, I asked. Both, he answered. So when we think about that, I have a feeling he's getting John ready for Shambhala. Why would a high Rinpoche who's esteemed in Tibet do all these weird things, little seals and play games? Why? So he gives all these letters. Here in Malaysia, don't give your station to everybody. Say, oh, what's a big piece of paper? Out. No kichara for them. Oh, yes. And you read all these ridiculous titles he gets. We think it's ridiculous. It's actually Lama preparing him, purifying his karma, destroying his view, wrong projections. And he had doubts all the way. You just read his nasty little doubts. All the time he's writing his nasty little bitchy doubts all the way through. And guess what? Rinpoche died and he wrote this book. Do you know why? Rinpoche asked him many times, write a book about a relationship. Write everything you saw. Everything. John's like, when? And Rinpoche says, when you have time. When this book came out, his sons and all these people, they don't sue him. They don't, America, one wrong move, they sue you. Nothing. And all these horrible things they write here about Rinpoche, actually, if you read it, it's powerful. How he converted the people. He did drugs, he drank sake, he had parties, he had wild sex, he went to go-go clubs, he went everywhere, he masqueraded as people. He did everything that a lama is not supposed to. But in the end, the students are transformed and changed. This is what we call a Mahasiddha in Tibet. They do the opposite, but get the correct. So when we see our lamas, and I'm not inferring to me, when we see our lamas act funny, or do funny things, or whatever, are we on the level to test them? Are we on their same level to do just like them? And if we say things that they do, and we repeat to others, and we reveal, and others know, and they dare to repeat and say, if they create negative action, negative thought for the Lama in other people's minds, the retribution will be very powerful. Very, very powerful. The result will be very powerful. If they dare speak, even they joke or play about it. Why? You don't know what's going on. You can ruin someone's Dharma future. So let's say, oh, I don't like Kandarohi Rinpoche here. I view something, it's my own wrong view. Then I talk to her, I talk to him. And I say like that. They lose faith, they go, oh, I won, whatever. But I may have thrown them off their Dharma career completely. Changed their destinies. And I will accept the harm that I've given them. It will come to me. Very powerful. So this book is authorized by His Eminence Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And it's, through a real publisher here, it's not some crap or whatever. And it's incredible. I read through this, I was amazed. I was totally amazed. Actually, I know about his, excuse my word, antics and funny behavior in America. I heard about it. And I didn't like him. I didn't like him. I was like, ooh, Lama shouldn't do that. But I'm like that. It's when I met Ganchen Rinpoche, Rinpoche would actually go like, hit me or slap me or play with me and say, you're too stiff, you're too conservative. Loosen up. I didn't know what he was talking about. Now I know. Because the people I need to meet. So lamas are usually talk, act, engage in activities, and do things and actions that fit his crowd. so that they can accept him easier. And in the beginning, his crowd will see him as having faults. And some are even thinking they can imitate the Lama or criticize or say something. And some will go away. You say, then why do that? Because there are always some kind of people who cannot accept, but the majority will. And then through time and time and time, you will see the actions of Lama fruition. And when we have doubts, we have this kind of thinking, and we have this kind of negative view, it's very, very bad for us. Because if the Lama is doing bad things, he goes to hell himself. You don't have to worry. But if you do it and you made a mistake, you go to hell. And you'll create a hell for yourself on earth. And these are not one or two stories, are many. Many. If you read the lives of the 6th Dalai Lama, His Holiness the 6th, same thing, same antics. Disrobed and ran around with in taverns with a bunch of women. Wrote love poems to all his lovers. He was very famous for writing love poems and having a lot of girlfriends. A lot. The inns and taverns where he consorted with his girlfriends and he drank beer because he disrobed. To this day in Lhasa, it's painted yellow to mark that the Dalai Lama has been there. So my point, that doesn't give us the right to do anything. But before we do or not do, we check our motivation and we check our attainments. If it's none, don't take a chance. This is General Mukbal, aka Chogyam Trungpa, with Major John in his uniform. And he forced this picture. He said to John, let's put on our uniforms and go and have our pictures taken together. Why, I asked. It will help you later, he replied. Oh yeah. And Rinpoche would never wear his robes. He'd be in some kimono or just naked running around, answer the telephone. He has a very high-pitched voice. And this is him, General Mukbal, sleeping outside. That's one of the things he likes to sleep outside, and he'd get up, and John has to be ready. Oh, fabulous. And this is him in a Scottish kilt. He likes kilts. Uniform kilts. He says uniforms attract Drala, the war god. It gives you energy to fight samsara. That's what he says. And John said, all right. This beautiful picture of John finally now doing marriage ceremonies the Celtic Buddhist way with other Celtic teachers of Buddhism. Oh yes. Very, very incredible. And later on, John really had visions. His main practice always has been Vajrayogini. Later, he had visions of Vajrayogini, of different ladies, different dakinis. And he went to consult with His Holiness Dingo Khyentse Rinpoche. And Dingo Khyentse Rinpoche accepted. And because when John talked about Dingo Khyentse, just said to him, oh, those. That happens to me every day from 2 to 4. And then he cut the conversation. And John went, oh. Oh yes, later. Incredible. Some of his visions he would tell Lama just forget it. Give me a sake. Incredible. You just go through this. So this will be our next assignment, will be this book that you read. It's very easy, it's very, very nice. And I wanted to say, for some of the Chinese ed people, example, Fat Monk, Chia, and Paul, I think you guys get together with Joseph and do a reading every 2 to 3 days. You guys read together with Joseph and let him explain to you. Because some of the terms are very American. It's very hard to adjust. I think very good. Try to learn. Every page learn. And then we'll have a filler questionnaire on it. Not to test you to see how stupid or how much you remember. To get to the inner core of what he's trying to convey. The inner core. I don't ask questions to trick you or to get you or to scare you. I ask you questions to make you think deeper of what you've seen. And these Mahasiddhas are throughout India and Tibet. Many. Many, many. And they reincarnate back again. I didn't know, but yes, I remember hearing Chogyam Trungpa has taken a glorious rebirth in Tibet itself again. He's back. So all the sake, the women, all his go-go and all his, mukbal and jumping off the stairs, looks like he didn't collect any negative karma. How can he be back and recognized by the highest authorities? So this is of the Kagyu tradition, which slightly different, but the meaning, the essence, and the goal is same. And we need to understand all this. We need to know. And this will help our lives. Aren't you excited to read this? Very, very nice.